How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, guys? Welcome in to 14P Fantasy. I am your host, Justin Wright. I am joined by the other half of 14P, Marco. What's going on, man?
Not too much. We've been attempting to record this video for you guys for about 30 minutes, but now we're in. Now we're going.
This has been brutal. It's just been all around terrible. Today, if you're not aware, somehow, we are breaking down our top 10 Dynasty wide receivers. There's going to be a part 2 at some point whenever we can find the time to do it. But for now, today we are covering our top 10. Before we get into that, guys, check out the Patreon page. Go to Patreon, search 14 Personnel. You're going to get the 14P Shield. We got 3 tiers, a $2 tier. Just help support the channel so me and Marco can start doing this more often and not make, I don't know, like $100 a month.
Yeah, I'll buy a razor. Maybe I'll shave for the next video.
That'd be good. There's a $5 tier. You get all of our rankings, tiered rookie rankings, tiered dynasty rankings, and then a $9 tier where we will actually break down one of your dynasty teams. Send us the screenshots. We'll give you trade ideas and a whole bunch of other stuff. So check out the Patreon page. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, you're watching us. Hit the bell, like the video, subscribe, do that good stuff. And then also follow us on Twitter. We got buys and sells going out over there in graphic form. We have rankings going out. We got, YouTube drops. Everything else is on the 14P Fantasy Twitter account. All right, Marco, you ready?
Let's do it.
Number 1 on the list. And honestly, this really shouldn't surprise anybody. Maybe it does. Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean,
he is the best dynasty asset at the wide receiver position. And the tiebreaker for me between him and Justin Jefferson is the quarterback play. Kirk Cousins has 1 year left on his deal. They have Harbaugh coming in now. It's not even a guarantee Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback to start 2022. On the flip side,
right,
we got Joey B. Mr. Ice himself, Joe Burrow, is tied to Jamar Chase. That's enough of a tiebreaker for me.
Yeah, I mean, really what it comes down to, I think Jamar Chase wins kind of at every level because, what you're talking about of, the quarterback and the offensive situation, 100% Jamar Chase wins that, obviously.
Yeah, not close.
Overall talent, the answer is Jamar Chase. Even if you're
close.
It's definitely close, but the answer is rightly Jamar Chase. People, I've talked about this in another video. People are like, well, we got to make sure we see him, same offense, same system, same quarterback. Wait, we did see that. And Jamar Chase was better then too. So the answer is Jamar Chase. He's 21. He's an absolute stud wide receiver, and he's going to be a stud wide receiver. The whole chemistry issues with the quarterback, he got to skip over all of that because he played with Joe Burrow in college, obviously. So yeah. Jamar Chase just has a leg up on most other rookies in this situation, on top of the fact that he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. So he's the wide receiver 1 for Dynasty, and it's hard to argue otherwise.
Yeah, we already kind of hinted at it. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson. Again, He had the greatest rookie season of all time until Jamar Chase broke it the next year. So, and I will admit, even year 2, I did not expect Justin Jefferson to repeat that. I thought, maybe that's his ceiling. And again, a top 5 wide receiver is not a bad ceiling. And he came out and he basically topped his rookie year. So he is firmly cemented in that top tier. Again, I think tier 1 is Chase and Jefferson. You can put them in any order. I don't care what order you put them in, but they are in a tier by themselves. I didn't write down stats for either of these players. My notes just say duh. Obviously he is the wide receiver 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Yes. He is the wide receiver 2. To me, like I said, he is very clearly the wide receiver 2, but those two are kind of in a tier amongst themselves. And I think that just shows you what kind of crazy offense Joe Burrow had in college. But Justin Jefferson, he's obviously a young player. And I think no matter what happens, whether Kirk Cousins ends up not being the quarterback there for the long term or not, Justin Jefferson has established himself as a guy who's going to demand targets. He's going to demand the ball. Thielen is obviously helping him, the fact that he's there, but Thielen's going to go away at some point. I'm still not worried about Justin Jefferson. So Justin Jefferson's an absolute stud. These guys are 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter what order, but I think this is the right order, and I don't think there's too many other people that can jump into the top 2.
No, not at all. And even, I mean, when we get to number 3 here, and let's just flash it up, it's DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
This is where we already start to disagree. And because I think this next tier of wide receiver is probably 4 or 5 guys deep. DK Metcalf is not my personal wide receiver 3. So, Marco, I will give this one to you.
Yeah. So he's my wide receiver 3, obviously.
Yeah,
and we've got him there. I think really what a lot of the issues with DK Metcalf is, he's inconsistent. The second half of his season is always a disaster, or it's really up and down. And here's the thing. I get that. And I think part of that is DK Metcalf, of course. I think a lot of that, though, is the Seattle Seahawks offense. I think a lot of that is Russell Wilson. I don't think DK Metcalf deserves all of the slander he gets at the second half of seasons, because he's still a very good player. And even with inconsistent second halves, he's ended the last 2 seasons as wide receiver 7 in PPR and wide receiver 14 in PPR. And in standard, he's wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 11. So I think what you see from DK Metcalf is he is the most physically gifted wide receiver in the NFL right now. I think as an athletic player, he is the best. I think what he is still kind of navigating is how is he going to be able to take a step to transcend, specifically the offense, the quarterback situation, like elite wide receivers can. I think he's about to take a step like that. I think we've already seen hints of him taking steps like that. He obviously played really well with Geno Smith, which was baffling. So I think really what we've seen from Metcalf is just kind of the beginning for him. And obviously, you see guys like J-Jet and Jamar Chase doing it at age 21. DK Metcalf is definitely in the conversation to be in this top 5. I think he's one of those guys who might be on the move, but I don't think there's a single landing spot that's really going to be very bad for DK Metcalf because of his physical presence and what he's able to do as an alpha.
He's going to get traded?
His name has been brought up quite a bit in trade conversations. If the Seahawks decide, hey, we're going to blow it up and we're going to move on from Russ and them, I think DK Metcalf could be on the move. And if he does, like I said, I don't think it matters. I don't think because of his physical giftings, I don't think he's going to be a guy who is allowed to kind of fall by the wayside in any offense.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And just keep looking at his second half or his first half, the last 2 years. I went ahead and took his 16-game paces. Right. If you just look at his first 8 games, he has a 16-game pace of 313 fantasy points, 1,360 yards, and 16 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That is his first game the last 2 seasons. He is a freak of nature to start the year. And then he just has historically unprecedented collapses. And again, it's not him. It's not that he gets bad week 9. Trade DK Metcalf. He's bad as soon as week 9 hits. No, it's the offense as a whole with the Seahawks just kind of fades down the stretch every single year.
Yeah, and they have like this weird identity crisis, and they're like, we don't pass anymore, and it's so weird.
I'm sick of Pete Carroll. I loved him at USC, loved him early. I am so tired of Pete Carroll. And DK Metcalf, again, he's not 3 for me. For me, he's 5. But again, he deserves to be in that top 5. And I think even then at 5, we're much higher on him than consensus. But
yeah,
this just comes down to, I'm banking on talent. That's what you should be banking on.
Yeah, so that 313 points, obviously we haven't
wide receiver 4 in a points per game basis this year.
Right, and he would have been wide receiver 2 in 2020. So exactly. I think obviously he hasn't strung that all together for a full season, but I think that's definitely within his range of outcomes.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on to my personal wide receiver 3, we have Tyreek Hill coming in at wide receiver 4, and I understand not wanting to put him at wide receiver 3. Again, he's 28 years old. He's probably at peak value right now. Last season was probably peak, but he's still right near the precipice of being in the conversation as the best wide receiver in the NFL. He is tied to Mahomes. Yes, he is a free agent after this year. I don't think there is a 0% chance he is leaving Kansas City. We have seen what Tyreek Hill has done the last 3-4 years, and there's no reason to expect him to drop off, over the next 3 seasons, the next 3 years. And that's really the window I'm kind of looking at here. So Tyreek Hill, again, he's similar to Chase and Jefferson. I don't think you have to make a case to put him this high. He is just up here.
Yeah, I think 3 years could be where we start to see a decline just because he is a very speed dependent guy. Obviously, he can do a lot more than speed, but speed is kind of what gives him the edge with everything else that he does.
Top 10 in red zone targets each of the last 2 years. That is a huge piece for
I'm just saying
how small he is. It's odd.
His route running is good. But it's made
great
excellent because of his speed.
Yeah.
Because of the speed he's able to put behind his routes. And so I think that is something where like maybe 3 years is like a question, but it's like maybe a question at this point because he is tied to Patrick Mahomes. And so I think that's why, like you said, there's not many cases you can make for him to fall out of your top 4 or 5. So we don't really have much to add to that because, I mean, he's proven that he can do it every single week. And he's one of those wide receivers who any day or any week, he can put up 40 to 50 points, and you could expect that 3 weeks in a row even and be like, hey, that's possible for him. And it could be.
Absolutely. So, all right. I mean, again, I don't think we need to linger on Tyreek Hill. Everybody knows.
He's good. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Move on. Okay. So moving to number 5. And I think this is another name that, so for me, he's 4. I presume he's 5 for you, obviously, Marco. AJ Brown, again, he's going to be 25 coming into next year. And right now, he's still at a discount in terms of dynasty value because what happened this year was just a weird lost season for AJ Brown. He was in and out of the lineup with injury. The Titans offense as a whole was lost because Derrick Henry was out. Julio Jones was, basically a shell of himself. He was dust. So AJ Brown took all of this hype where people had him as their wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in dynasty last year, and has started to slip in rankings just a little bit. But the thing is, the talent is not gone. This is a team that I think they may lighten the load on Derrick Henry next season, which could lead to an even further uptick in targets for AJ Brown, who was coming off of a career high in an injury-plagued season. So I think target share, talent, offense, all of it is still there for AJ Brown to, be a top 3 or 4 wide receiver pretty much any given year.
Yeah, so I have AJ Brown as 4. I have Tyreek Hill as 5, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So AJ Brown, he saw a little bit drop in some of his efficiency this year, but again, he was playing through injury or not playing because of injury. I basically just echo everything you said. Once Derrick Henry comes back, who knows what's going on with Ryan Tannehill? If he kind of comes back to even somewhat of what we were hoping for,
that was weird.
With the return of Derrick Henry, I think that would help him. So at least for one season, I think you can assume that they're going to get their normal offense back. And then beyond that, they're going to be adding pieces. They're going to be adjusting. AJ Brown is a physical, ball-demanding wide receiver, and he is going to be a guy who can do everything after the catch. I'm all for AJ Brown here. Like I said, I got him at my wide receiver 4.
Right. So, I mean, here, let's just talk trade hypothetical.
Yes.
Would you swap him and Tyreek Hill 1 for 1?
Yeah, I would take AJ Brown. I would trade away Tyreek Hill for AJ Brown. I don't know if a lot of people are willing to do that just because of the age discrepancy, but if they are, I would pull the trigger.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, when people see 28, it's crazy because we all know the cliff is 30. Like that is the wide receiver cliff. It's 30 years old. But now, and I've started to see this with running backs and wide receivers, people go, man, well, he's 28. That means, next year he's 29. Oh my God, he's 30 soon. Right. And like it pushes down value. This is completely off topic, but somebody talking about Elijah Mitchell the other day was like, I don't know. He's already going to be 24. The age cliff is 25 or 26. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, stop.
That's classic overthinking. Well, and here's the thing. The typical breakout age for a wide receiver is 28.
Right,
so
that is your peak value. That is peak season.
Right.
26 to 29. Like that is where you're gonna ball the hell out. Like that is when you get the best version of them. It's just, if you guys are watching, like, don't do the mental gymnastics. Be like, well, 24 is only 2 less than 26. Holy crap, that's close. Like that's just bad logic.
Right. And we're saying that even though I'm saying I would trade Tyreek Hill for AJ Brown, I think what you have to take into consideration is, yes, those things are accurate. Like Tyreek Hill is only going to be 28. So if you are going to sell him for a guy who you think is a top 5 dynasty asset,
Right,
don't sell him for cheap, or, a top 10 to 15 guy. Go get a guy who you know is going to be a stud, or you believe is going to be a stud.
Exactly. And AJ Brown, it's worth mentioning, coming off the playoffs,
Yes.
9 for 142 and a touchdown.
Yep.
There's your ceiling. A guy that can go for 30 every week.
Yep.
It's a little bit of projection still, but I like him. Moving on. And this one has been a hot topic on Twitter, just for so many reasons. We have CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 6. So I know CeeDee is your dude, Marco. So I will give you, a little bit on CeeDee Lamb here.
Yeah. So, CeeDee is one of those guys who people are like, oh, he's underperformed. He really hasn't. He had a statistically he improved this season, and that's the thing that's like, people are like down on him and it's confusing. I think the Cowboys offense is just so weird. And I think the thing that people are trying to navigate now as they process the Cowboys offense in this offseason is, are they going to move on from Amari or not? If they move on from Amari, CeeDee gets a bump in target share. If they don't move on from Amari and Amari stays, CeeDee doesn't take a hit. So you know what I mean? Like, there's almost no situation where CeeDee's going to lose you value. I could understand if you've got CeeDee, in your top 10, but not as high as 6. But for me, when you look at a guy like CeeDee, he is a route technician. And when you look at what he does in this offense, he is on the outside. He goes into the slot sometimes. They had a couple plays where actually this season where he was in the backfield and then motioned out. And so I think
the next Debo.
Yeah, he's not Debo Samuel. We'll say that. But I think what you need to know from that, and the reason I bring it up is that I've talked about this in the past. When they're moving their guy, one of their star wide receivers around the formation like that, they are doing everything they can to manufacture touches for this player. Those are the players you want in fantasy. The players who, sure, maybe they're not lining up as the X receiver every time, but they're forcing the ball to him. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see, especially as him and Amari come at the age level where Amari's like not producing for his age and CeeDee's overproducing for his age. That adjustment's going to be made. So I think keep an eye on what's going on with Amari, because I think CeeDee Lamb kind of benefits either way, but for different reasons.
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb right now, again, he's only going to be 23. He is 22 years old still. He's
exactly.
Going into year 3 of his NFL career. Like you said, he improved like we expected with Dak Prescott, obviously. If you factor in 17 games, throw in the playoff game, he's over 1,100 yards. But people had just set such lofty and insane expectations for him. Us included. But it's just, and he didn't meet that, so automatically he drops in value. But again, it's not normal for second-year wide receivers to finish as top 5 guys. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't typically happen. We are projecting forward with CeeDee Lamb. You're looking at an offense that Dalton Schultz is a free agent. Michael Gallup is a free agent. Amari Cooper is a cut candidate. This offense could look entirely different next year in terms of the pass catchers. I think Schultz comes back most likely. I expect Gallup to be gone, and Amari Cooper, I have no clue. But the point is, like,
CeeDee's he's averaging like I think he's averaging 1,000. Hold on, I have it in my notes. 1,017 receiving yards and 5.5 touchdowns. I don't know if you can find a safer player. In his first 2 seasons, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, he's already proven he is a spectacular player. So I get the discourse he's dropping in dynasty value. He shouldn't fall too far. Wide receiver 6 may be high. I don't really care. Same tier as the last couple of guys we've talked about in terms of upside and ceiling. And again, people don't like Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott is good for fantasy. So that's not a bad thing.
There's very little to not like about a wide receiver who's seeing the averages I talked about, but also in yards per catch, averaging around 13.3 yards per catch. Like, Dak's finding him in perfect places where he can do a lot with the ball in his hands. So,
yep. No, I'm with you, man. All right, moving on to number 7. It is Davante Adams. And Davante Adams is a guy that there is so much unknown with him. Davante Adams probably still has an argument as the best wide receiver in football, no question. But here's the thing. At the end of this season, the 2022 season, he will be turning 30, the day before Christmas. I looked up his birthday. Day before Christmas. Or maybe it was the date. Maybe it was the day before Christmas Eve. I don't know. End of December. He's turning 30.
Maybe it was Valentine's Day. I don't know.
He is a depreciating asset. At no point in time is Davante Adams' value going to go up at this point. He is going to continue to fall. Yep. And the things that could affect him are he is a free agent. He is not guaranteed to land with Aaron Rodgers in Denver. And I'm saying that because I'm damn sure Aaron Rodgers is going to Denver. It's likely the Packers franchise tag Davante Adams. I think that's where this lands. I don't think he's just going to have his pick of free agency at his level. They're going to need to have somebody for Jordan Love to throw the ball to. So Davante Adams, if we're projecting him to not play with Rodgers, he has one season without Aaron Rodgers, and he finished as the wide receiver 9 in points per game. He is worse without Aaron Rodgers, understandably so. So because of that, it's really difficult to rank him a whole lot higher, knowing he's going to be on the wrong side of 30 after this upcoming season, and things are just going to continue to get worse and worse potentially for him.
I literally have nothing to add to that. That was exactly the reason I have him where I have him. Yeah. And I have him at 7. So that's it.
Right. He is a freak. I mean, he is one of the most talented players in the NFL. And his career arc was super weird because he just wasn't a very good player the first 2 seasons. But the talent is there. If you're a competing team, I have no issue trading for Davante Adams. You can use that kind of, he's a free agent. He might not be with Rodgers. Use all those things to drive down his price potentially and then trade for a guy that worst case, I'm saying absolute worst case scenario, is probably a top 15 wide receiver. That is with everything in the world goes wrong for him.
Right.
Yeah. You in?
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I literally have nothing to add. I think he's going to have to play with Jordan Love next year.
Ooh, that's
because I do think, like you said, I think he's going to get franchise tagged. So
yeah, and that's going to be interesting. All right, moving on to number 8 here. And it's crazy because we're about to talk really positively about Jalen Waddle after we just shit on Davante Adams. But Davante Adams, if you're competing, he's a better asset. I need to.
Well, because Davante Adams is 7 from 1. It's different. Jalen Waddle's 8 from nothing.
Okay, you take Waddle here.
So, I mean, in short, especially in PPR leagues, Jalen Waddle is Jarvis Landry with more explosive play and burst. He is going to just be littered with targets. Obviously, Tua has other weapons here, but Mike Gesicki could be leaving. If Mike Gesicki doesn't come back, Jalen Waddle could see 10 targets a game. He legitimately could get close to that average.
I think Gesicki's gone. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very possible. If Gesicki does not come back, then Jalen Waddle could see 8 to 10 targets a game without blinking. That's one of the things. If you're in a PPR league, Jalen Waddle's floor is so high just because of the target share that he is going to receive on this Miami Dolphins offense. Sure, they could add a running back that's a pass catcher. That would maybe kind of infringe on that. But if they lose Gesicki, it's kind of some of this and, some out, some in. So I think really what you need to look at for Jalen Waddle is his floor is super high. So that's why he's automatically in our top 10 in this point. I really believe in Tua. I think Tua is going to still be a very competent NFL quarterback. And for fantasy, he could be a guy that can sustain at least one very, very productive fantasy pass catcher. And I think that guy is going to be Jalen Waddle. Yeah. Add on top of that, the fact that he is insanely fast, insanely productive, insanely efficient, and he is one of the better route runners that have his kind of speed in the NFL.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jalen Waddle, and again, target share, if you guys aren't familiar, it's a sticky stat. It doesn't really fluctuate a ton season to season, barring, giant offensive changes. So Jalen Waddle had a 24% target share. I expect him to be in the 23 to 25% range next year. I don't expect a ton of change there. Yes, like you said, if they bring in a running back, overall volume on the offense could drop, but his target share is going to stay where it's at. He's not going to hopefully have any games played with Jacoby Brissett next year. And honestly, if you want to compare him to somebody early in their career, another player that's also early, it's very similar to Deontay Johnson. I mean, a obscenely low average depth of target, which is fine because the volume is there to prop up their value. So Jalen Waddle is going to be safe. I don't really care about the low average depth of target because, again, volume is going to cancel it out. 140 targets as a rookie is absurd.
I was just about to say, so he saw 140 targets as a rookie. Obviously, they're very different kinds of players. That's 11 more targets than DK Metcalf has ever seen in an entire single season.
Well, and on the flip side of that is, again, he's 11th in targets in the NFL, but he's 35th in completed air yards, and that does limit the ceiling. So that is worth mentioning. But again, when you can find a guy that's basically penciled in for 15 points each and every week just based on volume, and he has, top 10 draft capital in the NFL, he's a player whose role is going to continue to expand in this offense, and any kind of uptick in average depth of target is going to lead to exponential jumps in his fantasy production.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Also, crazy, he is older by almost a year than CeeDee Lamb, which is like just another thing to point to. CeeDee Lamb is so damn young and such a raw wide receiver still that there's still so much room to grow for him.
Yeah, and this is probably not important information, I guess, but Jalen Waddle, even if they don't stick with Tua and they find a guy who likes to push the ball downfield more, Jalen Waddle does that, insanely well. Obviously, his PPR value might not be the same, but what he's going to be able to do is going to be like Tyreek Hill. Genuinely, that's what it could be if they bring in a guy who's elite at pushing the ball down the field at quarterback.
Yep. So Jalen Waddle is Jarvis Landry and Tyreek Hill. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Jarvis Hill, Tyreek Landry, Jalen Waddle.
Yes. Yeah, nailed it. Moving on to number 9 here. And people are going to say, oh, he should be higher. Whatever. Cooper Kupp.
He should not be higher.
I agree. He should not be higher. Cooper Kupp is unbelievable. However,
he's awesome.
Guys, what we just saw is the best season of his career. And that's fine because it's one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time. Cooper Kupp is going to be very damn good for at least the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how much beyond that you see these, kind of lapping the field type of seasons from him.
I don't know if he's going to get anywhere near 400 fantasy points again.
He should.
400
Nobody should. Points. Nobody should. It's one of the greatest seasons of all time. Cooper Kupp is spectacular. He's a beast in the red zone. He's great after the catch. He has a weirdly sexual rapport with Matthew Stafford.
He had 5 more receptions than Jalen Waddle had targets. Whatever.
He had 191 targets. Those type of things do not feel repeatable. And is that all to say I am now trading Cooper Kupp? Absolutely not. If I am contending, you would have to pry Cooper Kupp from my dead hands, my cold dead hands. There's no other way. But again, he is going to continue to depreciate in value.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be 29 this year, and I'm going to do it. He's going to be 30 the year after that. But after
you're saying he had his best season at age 28? Weird.
Yeah, who could have seen that coming? He is really damn good, guys. He is in the same tier as Jalen Waddle. If I could trade Cooper Kupp for Jalen Waddle and I'm not a contending team, I would do that. Those two are basically, rebuilding versus contending. That's where they fall. If it was a contending roster, Cooper Kupp is much higher than Jalen Waddle would be. And I don't think that's crazy to say.
No, I completely agree. And I think that's what you said, Cooper Kupp for the next 2 years is probably going to be a very – sorry, my dog is scratching his collar. Cooper Kupp for the next 2 years is probably going to be a top 10, probably top 5 wide receiver if Matthew Stafford can stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. And if you trade away Cooper Kupp, but you're not a big contender in this year or next year, it's going to suck to see him do it, but you hopefully got a massive return, like a guy like Waddle maybe. But yeah, Cooper Kupp is firmly in the top 10, but just because he is going into age 29, going into age 30, then he'll be 33 in a couple years after that.
We
can't do it.
Yeah, it's just depreciating assets, guys. You don't really see wide receivers
get younger
at age 20. Well, yeah, you definitely don't see them age in reverse, but at age 28, you don't see them jump in value. That just doesn't happen, which means if he stumbles even a little bit next season, he's going to fall outside people's top 12s, and it's just going to continue on for that. So, you got to be careful, especially if you're trading for Cooper Kupp right now.
Yep.
All right. Last
Number
guy
10.
on the list. Yeah. Yes, Marco. Last guy on the list. My guy, my dude. This makes me happy. Deontay Johnson coming in at wide receiver 10. And honestly, this 10th spot is shared by 3 guys, as far as I'm concerned. You want to put Deontay Johnson, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, any of those three here, go for it. Like this is a tier break for me right after Cooper Kupp. And there's three guys that all deserve this spot, but because I am very partial to Deontay Johnson, he lands here for me. A player that is going to see an upgraded quarterback. I don't care who it is. It's better than Big Ben if it goes to Big Ben. A guy that is locked into a 25% plus target share, a elite route runner, as far as I'm concerned, and a guy that is, effective in the red zone. And he's only 25. Deontay Johnson has every single tool available to him to jump even higher in these rankings come the end of next season. Yeah,
definitely. I think the only situation where he would take a slight hit, but it's not enough to move him really much in my rankings, is if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback. That's probably one of the only quarterbacks that I think is like, okay, that's not better,
Yeah, sure.
It's not necessarily a ton worse from what we saw from Big Ben this year, but it's definitely not better. But you nailed it. Like what he does as a route runner is going to make sure that he sees the target share that he saw, last season. He's going to be around that 22 to 24% target share pretty consistently, I think. For the next
what's crazy?
Years.
28% last season. Again, I'm not expecting him to ever do 28% again.
Right, 28's a little high. It's just kind of the nature of what Big Ben was doing. And I think Chase Claypool will maybe hurt what he was able to do in the red zone in 2021. But still, that being said, he's seeing enough work in the red zone. His target share is there. Again, when you can find these guys who are so proficient as route runners, that's what's going to separate them from a lot of the guys in their tier. Like when I look at this tier, it is very much who we have at 10, 11, 12. Deontay Johnson, T. Higgins, Cooper, or Deebo Samuel. I forget what order we exactly have 11 and 12 in, but those guys are all really, really good. I love T. Higgins. I love Deebo Samuel. I think they're both great players, but Deontay Johnson separates himself because he is going to always have space to get the ball because of what he does as a route runner.
Because he legitimately separates himself.
Exactly. He legitimately separates himself. He is just one of those players that is one of the kind of the new age PPR fantasy studs where they're smaller, but they're just route technician. So I'm all in on Deontay Johnson. He's a very different player than the guys we have behind him. And I think that's kind of what separates him to have long lasting value.
Yeah. And if they land a quarterback in this draft, and Pittsburgh is great at finding QBs, there's just no denying it. If they land a guy like Malik Willis or a Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett, Deontay Johnson could jump up rankings even more. Because right now, the only thing keeping him lower for me, because I think he is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. And I've been on that train for 3 years. If he gets quarterback stability, he will jump up my rankings mid-season. If it's clear that one of those guys is going to be able to actually support him. And because here's the thing, even with Big Ben basically dumping the ball off as a handoff to him, he was still top 15 in deep targets. He was top 10 in red zone targets. So low average depth of target, but he still got the valuable targets that really give you access to those 20, 25 point ceilings.
Yeah. So, and I think the thing with Deontay is like, if he gets like Kenny Pickett, say he gets Kenny Pickett, even with a rookie quarterback trying to figure it out, that offense and Mike Tomlin are just so good at adjusting mid-game, adjusting mid-season, and making sure that their playmakers are getting the ball. So Deontay Johnson is one of those guys who's just going to be a safe play. He's, like I said before, he is going to see he's the volume play on this offense as a pass catcher. Claypool's maybe the big play threat. He could be a red zone guy, but Deontay Johnson is the safe volume play on this team when you look at the pass catchers. I don't see him moving too much higher than 10 for this season.
Believe in something, man.
I would be baffled if we come back and if we go into 2022 and he's like Dynasty wide receiver 5. But I think 10 is very, very good for him.
It would have to be like mid-season. Like I need to see proof that whoever they pick at quarterback or trade for or sign is the real deal. I think that's going to be the key. Yeah, he's not going. I don't see a lot of changes in the offseason in general for these top guys because they're not up here because of situation. They're up here because of talent. And that's how most dynasty rankings should be built out anyways. That's a whole a whole different story. But all
Yeah,
right,
well,
guys.
they've proven they can transcend whatever situation they come across.
Right, like we already know it. Yeah. All right, guys, that is all we have for you. Again, check out the Patreon page. $2, $5, $9. We got 3 tiers over there. Check that out and help donate. Again, would love to make more than $100 a month. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me over on Twitter at Justin_14P. Get Marco over on Twitter at Marco_14P. You got anything else for him, Marco?
That's it. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you next time.
As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.